Hey, my name is Daniel. I'm 29. 3 months ago, I moved into a basement apartment in a fancy coastal townhouse, and my landlady was this elegant, married woman named Olivia, who I barely spoke to. Then, one night around midnight, she knocked on my door in her robe, sat down at my kitchen table, lemon cleaner smell still in the air, rain tapping the window, and whispered, "I don't know how to make a baby. Can you help?" I thought she was propositioning me, but what she really wanted was someone who would finally stay in the room with her fear, her failing marriage, and the one dream her husband refused to even talk about anymore. What happened after I said, "I will teach you," changed both of our lives in ways I still can't explain. If you're watching this right now, tell me where you're from, in the comments. Because I still don't know if what we did was wrong. I need to tell you about the night my landlady knocked on my door and asked me to teach her how to make a baby. But that's not really where it started. 3 months earlier, I was standing outside a fancy townhouse in the coastal district with 2 suitcases and a box of kitchen stuff, thinking I'd finally found a place I could afford on a nurse's salary. The door opened, and there she was. Olivia Kent, 42. Wedding ring catching the afternoon light. Hair pulled back in one of those effortless ways that probably took 20 minutes. She smiled like someone who'd learned early that smiling made people comfortable. "Daniel? Come in. Come in. You're right on time." The upstairs was everything my basement wasn't going to be. Hardwood floors, abstract paintings, strategic lighting that made even the hallway feel like an art gallery. Her husband, Thomas, appeared from somewhere deeper in the house, phone pressed to his ear, mouthing an apology. She showed me down. The basement apartment smelled like lemon cleaner and damp concrete. Small kitchen, smaller bedroom. One window near the ceiling that let in gray light. The fridge hummed like it had opinions. "I know it's cozy," she said, and I could tell she meant small. "But the lease is fair, and—" She gestured vaguely upward. "We're quiet neighbors, usually." Thomas came down then, finally off his call. He shook my hand too hard. Made a joke about basement living being good for writers and grad students. I told him I was a nurse, night shifts mostly. "Healthcare." He nodded like he'd checked a box. "Stable, good. Liv worries about tenants who can't pay rent." "Tom." Her voice had an edge. "What? It's practical." He was already heading back upstairs. "Let me know if you need anything, Daniel. We keep to ourselves, you keep to yourself, everyone's happy." That first night, I lay in the basement bed listening to their life above me. Footsteps, water through pipes, muffled voices that got louder, then suddenly quiet. I heard Thomas say something about always pushing this baby thing, and a door slammed hard enough that I felt it through the floor. Then the porch light came on outside my little window. Just for a moment. Then off again. Like someone had stepped out, changed their mind, and gone back inside. I worked at a fertility clinic. Not because I had some calling, not because I was passionate about reproductive medicine. I'd taken the job 2 years earlier because it paid better than the hospital, and the night shifts meant fewer people asking questions about why I lived alone and kept my family at arm's length. The clinic had that specific fluorescent hum. Sterile smell. Thin paper gowns. Couples holding hands so tight their knuckles went white. My coworker Jonah liked to joke that I'd finally moved into a fancy address. "Bet your landlady brings you cookies," he said, restocking supplies. "Rich people love feeling charitable." "She owns an art gallery," I said. "I don't think she bakes." Dr. Harris walked past, caught the tail end. Daniel. Word. In her office, she reminded me, again, about professional distance. There'd been a case before I started. A nurse who got too involved with a patient. It ended badly for everyone. "These people are vulnerable," she said. "They trust us. Don't mistake that trust for anything else." I nodded. Took it seriously. At the time, I thought I understood what she meant. A few days in, I ran into Mia in the hallway upstairs. She lived 2 doors down. Yoga instructor. Friendly in that way that made you wonder if she was just friendly or if she was collecting information. "You're the new tenant." She had one of those voices that carried. I started a group chat. For building stuff. You know, package deliveries, noise complaints, wine nights. "Sure. Olivia and Thomas are in it too." She leaned in slightly. "They're great neighbors. Well, Olivia is. Thomas travels a lot. She's been a little, I don't know, quieter lately. But she's lovely. Really lovely." That evening, Thomas knocked on my door. Invited me up for a drink. The upstairs was warm, ambient lighting, a painting that probably cost more than my car. He poured expensive whiskey into glasses I was afraid to hold too tight. "So, nurse." He settled into the leather couch. "You must see some weird stuff." "Sometimes." "Bet you get hit on. Women love the healthcare thing. Very trustworthy." He laughed at his own observation. "What kind of clinic?" "General, different patients." I didn't say fertility. I don't know why. Maybe because of the way he said women. Maybe because Olivia had just walked in from the kitchen, and something about her posture made me hesitate. She was holding a tray with cheese and crackers, her movements careful, polished, like she was performing hospitality instead of feeling it. Thomas kept talking. "Olivia's got this thing about having a baby. You know how women get about clocks, biological deadlines? I keep telling her we're not in our 20s anymore. We've got a good life. Why complicate it?" She set the tray down. "Tom?" "What?" "Daniel's a nurse. He gets it. Right, Daniel? There's a point where you've got to accept reality." I looked at Olivia. Her jaw was tight. Her hands were steady on the counter, but her knuckles were white. I think that's between you two." Thomas shrugged, poured more whiskey, changed the subject to sports. I left an hour later, went back to my basement, and lay there listening to the voices start up again through the ceiling. I can't pretend I don't care. We're not in our 20s. Move on. Silence, then the porch light. On. Off. The next morning, she knocked on my door. She was already dressed for the day. Gallery owner polished, hair perfect. But her eyes were tired. "I'm sorry about last night." She stood in the doorway, not quite stepping in. "Tom drinks too much sometimes and says things he shouldn't." "It's fine." "It's not, but thank you." She paused. "You said you were a nurse. What kind of clinic?" There it was again. That careful question. "Just general patients. People with long-term conditions." "Do you work with people trying to have children?" My stomach dropped. "Sometimes." She nodded slowly. Didn't ask more. Instead, she asked about my schedule, how often I was home, whether I minded if she ever needed to ask a medical question, nothing serious. I said sure. Before she left, she turned back. "I know this is your space, your privacy, but if I needed to talk to someone who understood medical stuff, would that be okay?" "Of course." She climbed back upstairs. The vanilla scent of her perfume mixed with the lemon cleaner in my kitchen and stayed there long after she was gone. That night, I worked at the clinic. Routine stuff. Blood draws. Patient intake. A couple in their late 30s holding hands in the waiting room like they were drowning and each other was the only solid thing left. Jonah nudged me during a break. "You've been weird lately." "I'm fine." "You keep checking your phone. You waiting for someone to text you?" "No." "Liar." He grinned. It's that landlady, isn't it? Told you. Rich women love charity cases. It's not like that. Then what's it like? I didn't answer, because I didn't know yet. That night, after my shift, I walked home in the pre-dawn gray. The porch light was off. The house was silent. I slipped into the basement and fell asleep, wondering what kind of medical question she'd eventually ask. It was 3 nights later when she finally came back. 11:30. I was in my kitchen, wiping counters after reheating leftovers. The lemon cleaner was fresh. The fridge hummed. Rain tapped against the small window. I'd left my door cracked for air. The knock was soft, hesitant. Olivia stood there in her robe and a blue scarf, her hair loose, her eyes red. Can I come in? I stepped aside. She sat at my table without asking, picked at the frayed edge of the scarf, stared at the crumbs from my dinner. I need to ask you something, she said finally. And I know it's going to sound... I don't know how else to say it. Okay. I don't know how to make a baby. I froze. She laughed once. It came out brittle. Wrong. I don't mean biology. I know how sex works. I mean the logistics, the tests, the timing, the things doctors don't explain because they assume you already know, the things your husband won't sit in the room to hear because he's decided you're being dramatic. She looked up at me then. Her makeup was smudged. Her hands were shaking. I'm 42. I've been trying for 3 years. Thomas won't do more tests. Won't consider IVF. Tells me I'm obsessing. And I feel so stupid because I don't even know what questions to ask anymore. I don't know if I'm too old. I don't know if there's something wrong with me. I don't know if this is all just... over. The clock ticked. The fridge hummed. The rain kept falling. Where do you work? She asked quietly. What kind of clinic? I could have lied. Should have lied. Fertility, I said. Her face did something complicated. Surprise, embarrassment, relief. Of course it is. She covered her face with her hands. God, I just begged my tenant to teach me about fertility, and you've been working in it this whole time. Olivia, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come down here. This is so inappropriate. She stood up. Forget I said anything. Wait. She stopped at the door. Sit down, I said. Let me explain some things. She sat. I started talking. Not like a nurse to a patient, not like a tenant to a landlord, just person to person. I explained ovulation windows, cycle tracking, the basic tests couples usually start with, the difference between natural conception and assisted reproduction, the things doctors assume you know, but often don't explain well. She listened, asked questions, real ones, scared ones. Am I too old? No, it's harder, but not impossible. What if Thomas won't do tests? There are things you can do alone, to start. Would anyone even see me without my husband? Yes. Would you? The question hung there. I knew what she was asking. Not would I personally examine her. Would I help her navigate this? Secretly. While living in her basement. While her husband slept upstairs. Every ethical alarm in my head was screaming. But I looked at her sitting there. This woman who probably hadn't been allowed to be afraid in front of anyone in years. Who'd been made to feel stupid for wanting something so fundamental. I'll teach you, I said. She started crying. Not loud, just quiet tears running down her face while she stared at my kitchen table. Thank you, she whispered. She left an hour later. The lemon cleaner and vanilla perfume mixed in the air. The clock kept ticking. I sat there alone, knowing I'd just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. The next morning I booked her first appointment. I used a fake email she'd created, scheduled it for a time I'd be working but wouldn't look suspicious. Entered her basic information into the system like she was just another patient. At the clinic, Jonah saw me staring at the new patient file. Crushing on someone? He teased. No. You're a terrible liar. Dr. Harris gave a briefing that day about professional boundaries. Mentioned the nurse from before again. Said emotional involvement with patients was the fastest way to lose your license and your job. I took notes, nodded seriously, felt sick. That evening, Olivia texted me. Just a question about what to bring to the appointment. Formal, careful. I sent instructions. Then added, if you have questions, I'll be on shift that day. She didn't respond. But an hour later, the porch light flicked on 3 times. Fast, then off. I stood at my window, watching, understanding somehow that it meant thank you. The appointment was on a Thursday. I saw her name appear in the system. Alias email, real age, married, trying to conceive. She walked into the waiting room dressed carefully. Not too fancy, not too casual. Trying to look like any other patient. Our eyes met for half a second. She looked away first. The receptionist called her back. Assigned her to my station. In the exam room, the paper gown crinkled, the chair creaked, the clock on the wall ticked too loud. I explained the blood work, the hormone panels, the ultrasound. Kept my voice professional. Clinical. But I noticed everything. The way her bare feet looked small on the cold floor, how she gripped the edge of the exam table, the vanilla perfume mixing with antiseptic, her knuckles going white when I mentioned possible outcomes. I feel so stupid, she said quietly, asking questions I should already know. You're not stupid. No one explains this well. My husband thinks I'm crazy. You're not crazy either. She looked at me then. Really looked. And I saw something shift. Not attraction, not romance, just recognition. Like she'd finally found someone who would sit in the room with her fear instead of dismissing it. The appointment ended. She left through the waiting room like any other patient. Polite smile, thanking the receptionist. An hour later, a text. Thank you. I couldn't have done that alone. I stared at it in the break room, read it 5 times. Jonah walked past. You good? Yeah. You sure? You look like someone just told you bad news. I'm fine. But I wasn't fine. Because sitting in that exam room, watching her hands shake, hearing her voice crack when she said she felt stupid, I'd stopped seeing her as my landlady, and I'd started seeing her as someone I wanted to protect. Over the next week, we crossed paths in the stairwell. By coincidence, she said, holding gallery flyers. Just checking mail, I said, holding nothing. We'd linger, talk about weather, building maintenance, anything but what we were really talking about. One evening, she caught me on the stairs and asked about one of the terms on her lab results. I explained it. She asked another question, then another. We ended up sitting on the steps for 20 minutes, her on the landing above me, talking about hormone levels and cycle timing like we were discussing grocery lists. Mia walked past with another neighbor, saw us, smiled. You two are becoming fast friends, she said lightly. Olivia laughed. Just boring landlord-tenant stuff. But after Mia left, Olivia looked at me and her smile faded. This is dangerous, isn't it? She said quietly. Yes. We're not doing anything wrong. I know. But it feels like we are. I didn't answer. Because she was right. We weren't doing anything wrong. But we were doing something secret. And secrets have weight. The weekend wine night happened in the courtyard. Mia's idea. String lights, cheap wine, neighbors pretending to like each other. Olivia played hostess. Charming, gracious. Thomas told work stories. Everyone laughed. I sat slightly apart, drinking slowly, watching. At one point, Mia insisted on a group photo, herded everyone together. Olivia ended up standing next to me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. The camera flashed. For just a second, her hand brushed mine. It could have been an accident. But when I looked at her, she was already looking away. 4 days later, she texted in a panic. "Starting injections tomorrow. Terrified of needles. Can you show me how?" I stared at the message. Thought about Dr. Harris's warning. Thought about Thomas upstairs. Thought about what this would look like if anyone knew. Then I texted back. "Come down at 8. She arrived with a small cooler bag, sat at my kitchen table, laid out the medication. I explained everything. Prepping the syringe, cleaning the injection site, the angle, the pressure. "You can do this," I said. She picked up the syringe. Her hands shook so hard the needle wobbled. "I can't." Her voice broke. "I can't even do this right." She started crying, quietly, helplessly. I moved closer, put my hand over hers, steadied it. "Breathe," I said. "I've got you." Together we guided the needle to her skin. She leaned forward, her forehead pressing against my shoulder as she breathed through the sting. When it was done, she stayed there, pressed against me, crying softly, my shirt getting damp. I didn't move, didn't pull away, just let her be scared and human and not fine for once. Eventually she pulled back, wiped her eyes, apologized. "Don't," I said. "This is too much. I'm asking too much." "You're not." She left quickly after that, but her perfume stayed. And so did the warmth of where she'd pressed against me. I threw away the used syringe, washed my hands, sat at the table, and knew, without question, that something had just shifted. The storm hit 3 nights later. Heavy rain, wind rattling the small window. The power flickered, then died. I was sitting in the dark, phone flashlight on, when she knocked. "Can I stay down here?" She was in leggings and a sweater, hair damp. "The darkness upstairs feels too big." "Yeah." We sat on the floor against the kitchen cabinets, the phone light between us, the fridge silent without power. "I hate storms," she said. "Why?" "When I was a kid, my mom miscarried during a storm. I remember the ambulance, the flashing lights, her crying. After that, storms always felt like something ending." "I'm sorry." "It's stupid. I know that doesn't mean anything about me." "It's not stupid." We sat in silence. Our shoulders touched. Barely. Just enough. She asked about my family. I told her about my dad. How we didn't talk much. How I'd learned early that some people don't know how to stay in the room with you. "Is that why you work nights?" she asked. "Maybe." "And live in basements?" "Maybe." She laughed softly. "We're both running from something." "Yeah." Another long silence. Then, "If I ever need you and can't text, I'll flick the porch light 3 times. Fast." "That's dramatic." "I know, but will you remember?" "Yes." The power came back, fridge humming, overhead light bright. We both blinked, suddenly too visible. She stood quickly. "Thanks for letting me hide down here." "Anytime." She went upstairs. I stayed on the floor for a while, thinking about porch lights and storms and the way she felt when she leaned against me, knowing I was in deeper than I'd admitted, knowing it was already too late to pull back. Over the next week, something changed between us. Not big, not obvious, but Olivia started coming downstairs in the early mornings with coffee, always with an excuse. "One last question before I go to work. Can you look at this result? I just need to understand this term." Thomas was traveling. 2 trips that week. She mentioned it casually, like it didn't matter. But I noticed she only came down when he was gone. We'd sit at my kitchen table, the lemon cleaner smell mixing with her vanilla perfume. the clock ticking, the fridge humming. She'd ask about hormone levels. I'd explain. We'd end up talking about other things, her gallery, the artists she represented, why I became a nurse, why I kept my family at a distance. One morning she touched my hand when reaching for the pen, just for a second, then pulled back like she'd touched something hot. "Sorry," she said. "It's fine." But we both knew it wasn't fine. At the clinic, I checked her test results, within boundaries, professional. But I felt relief when the numbers looked promising. I texted her carefully. "Hormone levels are good. Ovulation window should be in about 5 days." She replied, "Thank you for everything." I stared at that everything for a long time. Her gallery was having an opening on Friday. She'd mentioned it twice, never directly inviting me, just mentioning it. I went. The space was beautiful. Polished concrete, ambient music, white wine in actual glasses, not plastic cups. Olivia was in her element, confident, luminous, laughing with clients in a way I'd never seen. Our eyes met across the room once. She smiled. Small, private, like we were sharing a secret no one else could see. I stayed an hour, bought nothing, left quietly. Mia caught me in the hallway the next day. "Didn't know you were into art," she said, too casual. "Just checking it out." You and Olivia have gotten close." "She's my landlord." "Sure." Mia smiled. "Just be careful. Thomas can be territorial." I didn't know what she meant. Not yet. Thomas came back from his trip early. I ran into them both upstairs when I went to grab a package that got delivered to the wrong door. The atmosphere was tense. Polite smiles, tight voices. "Daniel." Thomas's voice was too loud. "Haven't seen you in a while. Been hiding in your cave?" "Just working. Olivia says you've been very helpful, answering her medical questions." I glanced at Olivia. Her face was carefully blank. "Just basic stuff," I said. "She's been so focused on her health lately. New hobbies, new schedules." He looked at her. "I keep telling her I need my wife back." It wasn't a joke. It was a warning. I excused myself, went back downstairs, lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how much he knew, wondering how much danger we were actually in. 2 nights later, Olivia had a follow-up appointment at the clinic. She seemed quieter during intake, distracted. After the appointment, she passed me in the hallway, nodded politely. Nothing more. That evening, I got invited upstairs for dinner. Olivia, Thomas, Mia, who'd brought dessert. It felt like a setup. I couldn't explain why, but something in the air was wrong. Dinner was normal at first. Wine. Small talk. Thomas told a story about a business trip. Everyone laughed. Then Mia brought up the group chat, joked about how Olivia and I were always online at the same odd hours. "Night owls," Olivia said lightly. Thomas smiled. "Must be nice having a nurse in the building. Free medical advice whenever you need it." "It's not like that," I said. "No?" He poured more wine. "Liv's been asking so many questions lately, about fertility, timing, cycles. I told her, why not just ask her husband? But apparently I'm not knowledgeable enough." The table went quiet. "Tom." Olivia's voice was tight. "What?" "I'm just saying, it's interesting how much time you spend talking to our tenant about medical issues. Very thorough." Mia made an excuse about checking her phone. Left the table. The silence stretched. Thomas stood, walked to the counter, picked up a tablet to show Mia a vacation photo before she disappeared. He swiped. A notification banner popped up at the top. A message from Daniel to Olivia. "Cycle day 11. Don't forget tonight's dose." Thomas froze. I watched the color drain from Olivia's face. "What's this?" His voice was too calm. Thomas. What is this, Olivia? It's about the clinic, the appointments I told you about. Appointments, he looked at me. You're her nurse? I work at a fertility clinic. And you've been texting my wife about her cycle, about doses, behind my back. I was just helping her understand. Understand what? How to go behind my back? How to involve our tenant in our marriage? It's not like that, Olivia said. Then what is it like? Mia appeared in the doorway. I should go. Yeah, Thomas said. You should. She left fast. I stood. I should go too. Good idea. I walked to the door, looked back once. Olivia was staring at the table, her hands flat, like she was trying to hold the world still. I went downstairs. An hour later, I heard them fighting through the ceiling. Are you sleeping with him? No. Then why are you texting him about our private business? Because you won't talk about it. You won't even sit in the room with me. So you run to some kid downstairs? Someone young enough to be… Stop. How long has this been going on? Nothing is going on. Bullshit. That message was about medication. That's all. A door slammed. The porch light came on, stayed on for a long time, then went dark. The next morning my phone buzzed. One text from Olivia. I can't do this. Please don't contact me again. I'm sorry. I read it 10 times. At the clinic, her next appointment was canceled. Just an email. No explanation. Dr. Harris called me into her office. Did something happen with a patient? She asked. Someone who seemed engaged suddenly withdrew completely. Not that I know of. You'd tell me if there was a problem? Yes. She didn't look convinced. Jonah found me in the break room later. You look like hell, he said. I'm fine. You got too close to someone, didn't you? I didn't answer. Daniel, whatever this is, it's not worth your job. Or your housing. Walk away. I already did. Then why do you look like someone died? I couldn't explain it. That walking away from Olivia felt like walking away from the only person who'd asked me to stay in the room with something hard. That I missed her knock on my door. Her perfume mixing with lemon cleaner. The way she'd looked at me like I wasn't just being helpful, like I was being human. 3 weeks passed, I worked, slept, avoided the upstairs hallway. I heard Thomas coming and going, his footsteps heavy, purposeful. I heard the shower running upstairs sometimes, early mornings. I'd imagine it was Olivia. Wonder if she was okay. The lemon cleaner smell faded from my kitchen. I stopped caring about cleaning. At the clinic, I worked with other patients. One couple in their early 40s reminded me so much of Olivia and Thomas that I had to step out of the room for a minute. Jonah took me for drinks one weekend. You need to talk about it, he said. About what? Whoever you're mourning. I'm not mourning anyone. You're mourning something. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was mourning the version of myself that had felt useful, needed, connected to someone in a way that mattered. Mia cornered me by the mailboxes one day. Haven't seen Olivia at yoga lately, she said, or in the group chat. Everything okay upstairs? I don't know. You two had a falling out? We were never really friends. Right. She didn't believe me. Well, if you see her, tell her we miss her. Week 3, I was at the clinic when I saw Thomas in the waiting room, with a woman. Not Olivia, someone younger, well-dressed, professional. My stomach dropped. He introduced her at reception as a friend considering her options. I was assigned to consult. Sitting across from Thomas, explaining fertility basics while he asked dismissive questions about women our age and realistic expectations. Every word felt like swallowing glass. He talked about how wives get ideas, and sometimes you have to be the realistic one. I wanted to say, Maybe your wife wouldn't have been desperate if you'd shown up like this for her. I didn't. But Dr. Harris noticed my tension afterward. You okay? Fine. Daniel, if you're too close to something, you need to tell me. I'm fine. I wasn't fine. That night, I walked home in a fog. The townhouse was lit but empty-looking. I remembered Olivia's joke about the porch light. 3 quick blinks. The light was on. Just on. Normal. I went to bed wondering if she even remembered saying it. 1 week later, I came home after a late shift. The street was quiet. Dark. As I walked up, the porch light turned off. Then on. Then off, on, off. 3 times fast. Then stayed dark. I stopped on the sidewalk. Heart pounding. It could be nothing. A coincidence. But I didn't believe in coincidences anymore. I went to check my mailbox in the basement entrance. Inside was an envelope. My name in handwriting I recognized. I opened it in my kitchen, hands shaking. A photocopy of lab results from a different clinic. And a sticky note. New clinic, new doctor, same fear, I'm starting again? I just don't know how to do this without someone in my corner. I sat at the table for an hour, staring at the note. Knowing I should ignore it, knowing I couldn't. The next day, I requested time off from Dr. Harris. Personal errands. Took the bus to the address on Olivia's paperwork. The new clinic was nicer than mine. Softer lighting, better furniture, same anxious faces. I checked in as a friend accompanying a patient, sat in the waiting area. 20 minutes later, Olivia walked in wearing her blue scarf. She saw me. Stopped. Not surprised. Not exactly. More like hoping I'd be there but afraid I wouldn't. Hi, she said quietly. Hi. We sat 1 seat apart, spoke in low voices. She explained. After the fight, Thomas agreed to 1 more opinion. But he wasn't here today. 2. Busy. She'd left me the note because she couldn't do this alone. Not again. But she also wouldn't risk her marriage. Not openly. I just need someone who understands, she said. Not someone to blow up my life. Just someone in my corner. A nurse called her name. She squeezed my hand once. Quickly. Then let go. I'll be here when you come out, I said. She nodded. Disappeared through the exam room door. Orchestrated narrative completion with structured scene progression. I need to continue with the ending sections. I'm at about 2,800 words in part 2, so I need roughly 1,200 more words to hit the target of 4,000 words for part 2. I need to cover walking around the block after her appointment. Their agreement on new boundaries. The new routine over the next weeks, months. The final scene with the porch light and ending lines. Let me continue. I sat there, waiting, realizing I'd crossed the line again, and that I'd keep crossing it as long as she needed me to. After the appointment, we walked around the block. Slow, careful not to touch. The coastal wind was cold. Her blue scarf moved with it. She told me what the doctor said. Realistic chances. New protocol. Timelines. I'm terrified, she admitted. I know. Thomas and we fought. Really fought. He accused me of emotional cheating, and maybe he's right. Olivia. No, listen. He's not wrong. I told you things I didn't tell him. I let you see me in ways I haven't let him see me in years. That's not nothing. We stopped at a cafe. Sat by the window with coffee neither of us drank. We need boundaries, she said. Real ones. Okay. I won't leave my marriage, and you won't ask me to. I won't. You can help me understand the medical stuff. Be there when I'm scared. But we can't keep meeting in your basement at midnight. We can't keep pretending this is just landlord-tenant. What is it then? She looked out the window. I don't know. but it can't be more than what it is right now. We pulled out napkins, drew a new treatment calendar. Clinical. Practical. When we finished, I folded the napkin and put it in my pocket. I can do boundaries, I said. Promise? Promise. We both knew it was a lie, not because we wanted to cross lines, but because some lines are too thin to see until you're already on the wrong side. Over the next month and a half, we built a new routine. Week 1. Olivia texted questions about medication schedules. I answered. Short, clinical, no late-night conversations. Week 2. She had blood work at the new clinic. I didn't go, but I texted before and after. You've got this. Proud of you. Week 3. We met at a coffee shop to review results. Neutral territory, public, safe. It felt wrong. The coffee shop didn't smell like lemon cleaner and vanilla perfume. Everything was too bright, too exposed. But we followed the rules. Week 4. I was walking past the new clinic and saw Thomas in the parking lot, getting out of his car, signing papers at reception. I ducked into the bathroom, hid. When I came out, he was gone. But the reality hit me. One wrong moment, one coincidence, and everything could explode. Week 5. Olivia texted that she wasn't sleeping. Hormones were making her emotional. Everything felt impossible. I wanted to say, come downstairs, sit on my floor, let me make you tea. Instead, I texted. Deep breaths. You're stronger than you think. She replied. I don't feel strong. I know, but you are. Week 6. I almost broke, saw her in the building hallway. She looked exhausted, thin, like she was holding herself together with wire. I wanted to touch her shoulder, say something real. Instead, I said, How are you? Fine. We both knew it was a lie. Then, one night, my phone buzzed. Porch light, 6 a.m. coffee? I stared at it, read it 5 times, an invitation back into the house, under the new rules. I texted back, I'll be there. The next morning, I went upstairs at 5:50. The porch light was on, steady. Olivia let me in quietly, still in pajamas, hair pulled back, the vanilla perfume faint. The upstairs kitchen was different from my basement. Soft morning light. Everything warm and carefully arranged. We sat at the island with coffee, spoke in low voices. Thomas was asleep down the hall. She walked me through her next cycle steps. Physical symptoms. Side effects. I don't know if I'm doing this for the baby anymore, she admitted, or just because I can't stand the idea of giving up. Does it matter? I think it should. Maybe. But right now you're still trying. That's enough. We washed our mugs together at the sink, our shoulders inches apart, not touching. Through the ceiling, an alarm went off. Thomas. We both froze. You should go, she whispered. I left through the front door, stepped into the cold morning air, looked back once. The porch light went off. My heart was still racing when I got back to the basement. That became our new pattern. Some mornings the porch light would blink 3 times at dawn. I'd go upstairs for coffee and charts. We'd talk quietly, carefully, within our boundaries. Other mornings, the light stayed dark. And I respected that as her choice to handle things alone. At the clinic, I saw her name occasionally in appointment confirmations from the new facility, just text on a screen. But it reminded me she was still trying, still fighting. Jonah noticed I seemed calmer. You figure your shit out? He asked. Sort of. Good. You're better when you're not trying to save people. I'm not trying to save anyone. Then what are you doing? Just being there. He nodded, like he understood. Months passed. Fall turned toward winter. The routine continued. Some mornings with coffee upstairs, some mornings alone. text check-ins about appointments and results. We never talked about what this was. We never named it. One evening, another patient at my clinic asked me to help her understand confusing test results. She was scared, overwhelmed. Her husband was supportive but didn't understand the medicine. As I explained everything, I realized how much I'd learned from Olivia. How to sit with someone's fear without trying to fix it. How to explain things without making them feel stupid. How to just be present. Mia stopped asking questions about Olivia eventually. Just mentioned once that you two seem to have figured something out. I didn't respond. Thomas stayed upstairs. I stayed downstairs. Olivia existed in the space between us. Some days I wondered what we were doing, if this routine was helping her or just prolonging something that should end. Other days, I looked at the porch light and thought, she's still trying, that matters. One evening, I came home from work. The porch light was on, but dim, flickering. The bulb was dying, half lit, half dark, not fully bright, not fully off, just there. I stood on the sidewalk looking up at it. And I thought, that's us, that's what this is. Not a full relationship, not fully over. Just this fragile, flickering thing neither of us can define or give up. I unlocked my basement door, stepped inside. The lemon cleaner was back. I'd started caring about small things again. My phone sat on the counter. Charged. Ready. The porch light stayed on outside my window. Flickering. Uncertain. And I realized some doors stay half open not because someone forgot to close them, but because someone is still standing on the other side, waiting, trying, hoping, not for something to happen, just for the simple, impossible comfort of not being alone. I left my door cracked, like I always did, sat at my kitchen table with the hum of the fridge and the tick of the clock, and waited for whatever came next. Because some people don't really ask you to make a baby with them. They just ask you to sit beside them while they try to feel less alone in the life they already chose. If a door stays half open, it's because someone is still standing on the other side.